Now with audio. Good morning, everyone. We are just waiting for our quorum. We will get started in just a minute. Hi, council member. How are you?
Tough morning this morning, but I'm blessed.
All right. Sorry to hear that, but I'm glad that you're here. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're just waiting on one other member who is on his way, so we'll be right with you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Again.
Sorry about that. Had a
Oh, no, you're good. I think we're about even. Um, we'll kick it off. I know Councilmember Lewis George is going to join us, but I've got a little bit of a warm up here before the first vote, so we should be okay. If we need to hold for her, we will. Good morning. I'm Brianne Nadeau, Council Member for Ward 1 and Chair of the Council's Committee on Human Services. Today is Thursday, November 17th, and we're holding this meeting through the Zoom online platform. The time is 10:04 a.m., and I'm calling to order this regular meeting of the committee. For the record, I'd like to note that we have a quorum consisting of Ward 8 Council Member Trayan White, at-large Council Member Robert White, and myself. Thank you. Today, the committee will consider and vote on 5 measures. The first measure before the committee is Bill 24-600, the Give SNAP a Raise Amendment Act of 2022. This legislation was introduced by Council Members Henderson, Che, Pinto, Robert White, Lewis George, McDuffie, and myself on January 3rd, 2022. The purpose of the bill is to amend the Food Stamp Expansion Act of 2009 to replace the phrase food stamps with the acronym SNAP and to provide a locally funded supplemental benefit equivalent to 10% of a SNAP participant's federal maximum monthly allotment. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, is one of the most successful American anti-poverty programs. SNAP benefits are associated with reduced nutrition insecurity, increased grocery spending, greater consumption of nutritious foods, and reduced fast food consumption. These benefits are especially critical for residents of the district, where nearly 140,000 low-income households rely on SNAP. SNAP allotments vary depending on family size and income, with minimum and maximum allotments adjusted annually based on the conservative Thrifty Food Plan. In 2022, for example, a household of 2 would receive, depending on their income, a minimum monthly allotment of $20 and a maximum monthly allotment of $459. Most SNAP recipients, however, do not receive benefits even close to the maximum. And the average pre-pandemic benefit for a district resident was only $149 per person. Because the district has one of the highest costs of living in the United States, this creates a significant gap between what families need to survive and what they receive in benefits. That means that most SNAP beneficiaries must turn to cheaper, less healthy food options, leading to harmful long-term health, educational, and economic consequences. This legislation will provide a much-needed boost to the district's neediest families, ensuring increased food security and the opportunity to purchase healthier foods. The bill is also expected to improve the long-term health and educational outcomes of district children, decrease racial inequities, and generate millions of dollars for the district's economy. I'd like to thank the Economic Security Administration at DHS for collaborating with my team to find a way to give SNAP a raise that was fair, effective, and easy to implement. And I'd like to thank Councilmember Henderson and her staff for introducing and help flesh out this critical legislation. Let me just turn over to, we've been joined by Councilmember Janice Luce-George, so I'm going to proceed. With that, I'm recommending the approval of the committee report and print for B24-600. Is there any discussion on the report or print? Councilmember Robert White.
Thank you so much, Chairperson Nadeau. This bill is not likely to get a lot of headlines, but that's unfortunate because it is an incredibly important and impactful bill that is going to impact so many people and families, giving a 10% increase in SNAP benefits to participating households, which provides families with more money to spend on food when so many of them are running out of SNAP benefits currently halfway through the month or earlier. This is sorely needed because there is so much high food insecurity in the district. In 2019, approximately 94,000 DC residents, nearly 1 in 8, depended on SNAP. In 2020, due to the pandemic, that number increased by 40,000 to a total of 135,000 experiencing food insecurity. So I really want to thank you, Councilmember Nadeau, and your team for this work, and I'm excited to be voting in favor of this measure today.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, at this time, I move to approve the committee report and print for B24-600. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, I have a comment.
Oh, very good. Go ahead. Go ahead, Councilmember White.
Yes. First, I want to thank you, Chairwoman Nadeau. The bill we are marking up today, Give SNAP a Raise Amendment Act of 2022, would create a critical supplement in SNAP benefits. As discussed, we seen what happened during the pandemic, and the amount of families needing assistance across the world has increased significantly. Recent inflation has made grocery prices outrageous and just overly expensive, and exacerbated the issues with already struggling residents in the district. Food insecurities across the country has become harder, especially for brown and black people. This legislation is overdue as an equitable step to more just economic outcomes for district residents. The second bill, not sure if we got to the second bill yet, so I would digress there. So I'm in full support, and I'll be voting yes to move this out of committee today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Lewis-George.
Thank you, Committee Chair Nadeau, for moving the important measures today so they can be approved by the full council by the end of the council period. As inflation increases around us, our SNAP benefits have remained stagnant and insufficient, placing greater and greater strains on our lowest income families. I'm optimistic that the changes we are advancing today will not only put more food on more tables, but that families will be better able to afford the kind of nutrient-rich foods that we know are essential to a child's physical and emotional development. These raises are a vital piece of how our city builds back better from the inequitable harms of the pandemic in a very real way. And I look forward to working to secure the funding for the implementation of this act. I wanted to ask Councilman Nadeau, have you had any conversations with the executive or the CFO regarding funding for, I know this is a $50 million in local funds each year. The CFO has identified as necessary. Is this a cost DHS and the mayor have committed to absorbing in the budget they send down, or is this a cost the Human Service Committee will be working to secure in the forthcoming budget?
No commitments yet, but Councilmember Henderson, the author of the bill, has been talking with them extensively, and certainly I support it too. So, hopefully we can all come together on this because it's huge. We know that food insecurity is something that we can solve.
Absolutely.
And this is the path. So thank you for the question.
Great. Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much. Okay, so now everyone has commented. So at this time, I'm going to move to approve the committee report in print for 24-600 in block with leave for staff to make technical, conforming, and editorial changes. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. The second measure before the committee is Bill 24-857, the Preserving Our Kids' Equity Through Trusts and Fostering Stable Housing Opportunities Amendment Act of 2022, also known as the Pocket Act. On June 14th, 2022, I introduced this legislation as the Preserving Our Kids' Equity Through Trusts Amendment Act of 2022 with council members Robert White, Bonds, Henderson, Lewis George, Shea, and Pinto. Because the bill incorporates the text and purpose of Bill 24-941, the Fostering Stable Housing Opportunities Amendment Act of 2022, it was renamed to the Preserving Our Kids' Equity Through Trusts and Fostering Stable Housing Opportunities Amendment Act of 2022. This legislation makes significant changes to 3 areas of the work of the Child and Family Services Agency, or CFSA. First, the bill ends CFSA's practice of taking the Social Security benefits of children in foster care and using them to pay for the routine costs of care that the agency is already obligated to cover under district law. The bill seeks to turn the agency's Social Security representative payee policy from a weakness into a source of strength for families by requiring the agency to screen all children entering its care for eligibility, apply for benefits on their behalf, and then rather than using its benefits to pay itself back for their care, conserving them in accounts that avoid transgressing federal resource limitations. Second, this legislation reforms CFSA's practices in support of youth aging out of care, attempting to identify stable housing. At age 21, half of district foster youth and former foster youth report having experienced homelessness in the past 2 years. In the district, only 1 person aging out of foster care has anticipated living in their own apartment after aging out in the past 2 fiscal years. And district youth aging out of care are just as likely to be homeless immediately upon leaving care as they are to be living on their own. These outcomes are especially tragic because they have a free federal fix. The Department of Housing and Urban Development's Foster Youth to Independence Initiative, or FYI, allows public housing authorities to draw down on Family Unification Program, or FUP, vouchers on a non-competitive, on-demand, as-needed basis after a jurisdiction utilizes 90% of its annual FUP allocation. And under the Fostering Stable Housing Opportunities Amendments to the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, FYI vouchers are available to youth for up to 5 years after they leave care. CFSA and the District of Columbia Housing Authority, however, have never taken advantage of this opportunity. This legislation will improve outcomes for youth aging out of care by directing the clinical judgment of CFSA's Internal Housing Review Committee toward the provision of vouchers and away from the temporary placements and volatile stays with family. The agency currently provides youth aging out of care with written housing plans, but under the Pocket Act, those housing plans must contemplate the receipt of a voucher for all youth who require assistance securing a primary residence for independent living. Because the statute contemplates that youth who are unprepared to maintain their own residence do not require assistance securing such a residence, the agency would still be able to exercise its clinical judgment to direct youth to housing placements that meet their unique clinical needs if they do not require or are unprepared to maintain their own apartment. But in the event that a youth aging out of care is at risk of homelessness and needs help securing housing, the agency would have to work with DCHA to procure a FUP voucher regardless of whether that voucher is an FYI voucher. With 20 to 35 youth a year aging out of care and 50 on-demand FYI vouchers available on top of the district's entire FUP allocation, this shift would functionally end homelessness for youth aging out of care. Finally, the Pocket Act makes several necessary changes to the administration of CFSA's grandparent caregiver and close relative caregiver programs. These programs, which provide subsidies to low-income relatives taking care of kin, have historically been 100% effective at preventing entry into foster care. Still, their success is attributable to the subsidies they administer, not their slow, unpredictable administration. Some beneficiaries, for instance, receive several months of arrears with their first subsidy disbursement while others receive no arrears, and applicants often wait several months after approval for their first payment. To ensure that families can count on quick, consistent turnarounds and consistent standards regarding the initial payment of arrears, the Pocket Act makes several programmatic improvements to the administration of the GCP and CRCP. Consistent with the administration of other public assistance programs like SNAP and TANF, under the Pocket Act, families would have to receive their first subsidy payments within 45 days of approval. Additionally, the arrears included in an initial subsidy payment would be calculated from the day a family is deemed eligible for a subsidy. To give families an opportunity to contest termination and prepare for life without a subsidy, the legislation also requires 15 days notice before termination. Finally, the Pocket Act makes the CRCP permanent. The program is currently functioning as a pilot set to expire on September 30th, 2023. The CRCP's 100% efficacy at preventing entry into foster care, however, weighs in favor of making the program permanent, and families currently receiving benefits need to know as soon as possible whether they will continue to receive life-changing, life-supporting subsidies past the end of the current fiscal year. With that, I'm recommending the approval of the committee print and report for B24-857. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Robert White.
Thank you. I promise I'm not speaking on every bill, but these first two are just so important, and I'm really excited to be part of the committee passing these out. Not to be redundant of what you said about the bill, Chairperson Nadeau, this bill does three things that are just so important. First, it makes sure that children in the care of DC, such as foster youth, personally receive the government benefits that they are entitled to, rather than the local child welfare agency or CFSA recouping those benefits. So this creates a nest egg of roughly $700 a month for young people as they get older and really start their adult lives. Second, it makes sure that youth aging out of foster care are aware of all of their housing options. None of us know these options inherently. And so this includes them receiving voucher supports for independent living so that they can make an informed choice about the option that works best for them so they do not fall into homelessness, as about 1 in 3 youth who were in foster care do experience in their first year out of care. We have the resources, as you said in your statement, to prevent youth aging out of care from becoming homeless. In DC, 20 to 35 youth a year age out of foster care, and there are 50 on-demand federal foster youth to independent vouchers available. So this really connects the dots. Finally, also very important, the bill makes permanent the close relative caregiver program, which provides financial resources or financial subsidies to relatives with low incomes who are taking care of kin. We know how important this is, and so far the program has a 100% efficacy rate at preventing entry into foster care. And so this measure makes permanent those supports for kin and makes changes so that the program can be administered more effectively. Again, I really want to thank you and your team for all of your work on this bill.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Lewis George.
Again, I like Councilmember White. I'm not going to do it on everyone, but just these first two. I want to thank you, Councilmember Nadeau, for introducing and advancing this vital bill. My office met the other day with formerly homeless youth and service providers who shared the unfortunate reality that they are seeing homelessness among youth and young adults on the rise. That is why I'm grateful that the Preserving Our Kids' Equity Through Trust Act makes vital changes to our foster care program by creating and implementing real housing stability plans when a youth ages out of care. This act further ensures all eligible youth can better access and preserve any of their local Social Security benefits, which can be a lifeline as they navigate independence. Housing and income are necessary pieces of the puzzle of how we support some of our most vulnerable youth to achieve their full potential and prevent intergenerational cycles of homelessness and poverty. This is another bill that probably won't get enough headlines, but I think will be a real game changer for our young people. And I look forward to voting yes to sending this to the committee of whole. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to check, I think Councilmember Tryon White wanted to comment on this bill.
I'm at a school right now.
That's okay. This was the one making permanent your close relatives caregiver bill. So just very excited and wanted to thank you for your leadership on this. And I remember when your constituent, Mr. Massey, came and testified before our committee about the need for this program. So I hope he's listening today because his story inspired all this action.
Yeah, so let me say a few words. It's a little noisy right here. Let me step outside. We had a long morning. We had a double shooting this morning. A kid was shot.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
I'm up at school now. All right, here we go. Preserving our kids' equity through trust and fostering stable housing opportunities, also known as Pocket. Amendment Act of 2022 is an important innovative tool to improve opportunities for youth in care. I have long argued that we need to provide better support and opportunities for youth in foster care, specifically for financial support that too many youth have who have aged out of foster care system don't have access to family support or generational wealth. I introduced a piece of legislation in the past to provide financial support to these youth. I'm pleased that we'll be righting the egregious wrong that has taken place and ensuring at minimum they are receiving Social Security benefits, which they are entitled. So, I'm thrilled that this legislation will also make permanent the Close Relative Caregiver Program. I introduced the Close Relative Caregiver Subsidy Amendment Act of 2019. And Councilman Doe, you have always been extremely supportive of this and moving this along. I want to thank you for your advocacy, and I look forward to supporting this measure today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. With all that being said, I now move to approve the committee report in print for B24-857 in block with leave for staff to make technical conforming and editorial changes. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Great. It is unanimous. Thank you. The third measure before the committee is proposed resolution 24-0904, the director of the Office for Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing, Carrie Cook confirmation resolution of 2022. The purpose of proposed resolution 24-904 is to confirm acting director Carrie Cook as the director of the Office for Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing, or ODDHH. The mission of ODDHH is to advance the civil rights of the deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing communities by ensuring and overseeing district-wide compliance with the laws that affect them. Acting Director Carrie Cook is extremely qualified to take on the task of being the director for this new office. Ms. Cook has been the acting director of ODDHH since June 2022. She's enjoyed a long career in policy development and community engagement through her work at the Center for Disability Rights, National Black Deaf Advocates, or NDBA, and U.S. Department of Labor affiliate programs. She specializes in working with underserved populations, including but not limited to deaf youth, veterans experiencing homelessness, and formerly incarcerated persons. She also served as Vice President of Programs at Communications Services for Deaf and as an Assistant Dean at Dartmouth College. Ms. Cook was appointed by New York Governor Andrew Cuomo to the New York State Independent Living Council, served as the inaugural Director of Public Policy and Government Affairs for NBDA, and in 2014 was appointed to the Obama administration's FCC Disability Advisory Council. On September 28, 2022, the committee held a public hearing on Director Cook's confirmation. At that time, the committee heard from several community stakeholders and organizations. All of that testimony supported Acting Director Cook's nomination, and the committee is excited to endorse her leadership. With that, I am recommending the approval of the committee report and print for PR 24-904. Is there any discussion on the report or the print? Okay, hearing none. I move the report and the print for PR 24-904 in block with staff to leave with leave for staff to make technical and conforming changes. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Great. It is unanimous. Thank you. Two more, guys. We're almost there. Next, we turn to the Committee on Human Services Second Staff Appointment Resolution of 2022. This resolution is needed because the committee has added new staff. Recently, Jessie Ojeda joined the team as a term legal fellow. I'd like to thank Jessie for all of her hard work this fall, and especially for her role in preparing for today's markup. I recommend the approval of the resolution. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I move to approve the Committee on Human Services Second Staff Appointment Resolution of 2022 with leave for staff to make technical, conforming, and editorial changes. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any nays or abstentions? Okay. Hearing none, measure is adopted. The final measure before us for consideration today is the Committee on Human Services Council Report 24 Activity Report. The report before us today captures 2 years of the committee's work toward a more equitable district, a place where everyone can thrive even when they face food insecurity, disability, child maltreatment, and poverty. Because of the committee's work, for the first time, people with developmental but not intellectual disabilities will be able to receive services from the Department on Disability Services. For the first time, districts receiving SNAP will get enough benefits to put food on the table all month, every month. For the first time, kids in foster care won't have their Social Security benefits taken by the agency that's supposed to be looking out for them. And because of the committee's work, we will have fresh, exciting leadership at critical district agencies. The new office for the deaf, blind, hard of hearing, the new office of the Ombudsperson for Children, the Interagency Council on Homelessness, and CFSA could not be better situated to step into a new promising era with new promising leaders. I recommend the approval of the report. Is there any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, I move to approve the Committee on Human Services Council Period 24 Activity Report with leave for staff to make technical conforming and editorial changes. In doing so, I note that the committee staff will be adding a summary of a public oversight roundtable taking place on December 13th to the report before we file. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 It is unanimous. Is there any other business before the committee? Fantastic. Hearing none. The time is 10:28 a.m. and this meeting of the Committee on Human Services is adjourned. Thank you.